How you doing? Me? Forget about it. The best. Unbelievable. Why? I'm here in New York. Why am I here in New York? Because of the theater. What are you, nuts? Yeah. All kinds of theater here in New York. We got Broadway, off-Broadway. And the reason I'm here is because of this. Take a look right here. See that? Well, that's Kathy Griffin right there. She's beautiful. She's a doll. And right there, that ugly mug. That's me, Tom Cavanaugh, taking it, 1940 it feels like. Yeah, in a production of Beauty and the Beast. Get out of here. Nah, Grease. Yeah, Queen's Musical Theater. Boom, Grand Theater. That is why we're here. For me to say thank you to you, Grand Theater. Best it ever was. Best it'll ever be.
The Grand Theater was originally the Grand Opera House. And it was that for a great many years. It was then turned into a movie house for 20 years or so. And as it was the only theater in town with the stage house, it just seemed too bad to lose it. There was originally a committee of citizens to save the Grand. Well, it just wouldn't have been a Grand Theater today without the Arts Council's committee.
Well, in the early 60s, I had just started up my practice in Kingston as an architect, and I was approached by Jim MacDonald and various members of a committee for Save the Grand, because at that time it had changed from being a cinema, and they'd closed down the movie theatre, and there were discussion of tearing it down and turning the area into a parking area.
There was a high school teacher by the name of Margaret Shortcliffe. Margaret was really the spark plug. She saw the potential in this building. There was another gentleman by the name of Jim MacDonald. These two people took a significant amount of time and effort and set up the Kingston Arts Council.
Be a grand giver. CKLC invites you to bring back the applause. Join the Kingston Arts Council in their efforts to restore the Grand Theater, to bring live entertainment back to Kingston. Years ago, Kingston was one of the top...
Everybody pitched in, and it worked very well.
It took a long time, but the city finally caved in and said, well, if you can raise the money, then we will have another look at it.
I looked at this old building with Doug Lee, the structural engineer and civil engineer, and we poked around. We went right up in the ceiling, above the roof, above the ceiling tiles, and the place was a bit decrepit, there's no question about it, and it had been much maligned from what it was originally. And I had had some experience during the Blitz in London, looking at buildings which had just been bombed, and I thought it wasn't going to fall down. So several of the established architects in Kingston had not got a similar view, and they were rather disparaging about whether it was worth saving. Anyway, I thought it was, and so they employed me as the architect.
One of our members, Stain Cohen, decided that we should be doing something special for the theater, and we commissioned Ralph Allen, the painter and Queen's professor, for a mural that was placed in the foyer of the Grand Theater in its new form.
When it opened, we didn't go to the opening or anything like that, but lifestyle shifted, because suddenly we started going downtown for the big events. Sort of exciting to go to a marquee venue on the main drag. It had a cachet to it that was suited what was going on there.
Lucky enough to be involved in the very first Kinsman show that came into the Grand Theater, newly renovated and all shined up. People like Jack Abernathy working backstage with Pat Behariel, of course. It starred Derek Hazel and Annabelle McCullough, both of whom became friends of mine. Derek Hazel went on to do professional theater all across Canada, and I did probably 15 or 20 more shows over the years with Annabelle McCullough.
With music hall, we started at the Domino Theatre, which was a lovely theatre, but a small one, 130 seats or something. And we just couldn't accommodate all the people that wanted to come and see the show. So in 1981, I think it was, we moved into the Grand Theatre, and we did the final show in 1997, and that was one of the few shows I've been in where you could stand backstage, look over the top of the set, and see that the audience were right up to the back of the balcony. It was wonderful, a great, great experience.
In many ways, I can't imagine my life without the Grand Theatre. I started my association really early on. I was 11 years old, and in 1976 appeared in a production of Oliver that was produced by the Kinsman Club. It's one of those moments where you get to experience the magic of theatre, and then you can see that this talent here in the city is just phenomenal, and people go on to these incredible careers beyond that.
I worked here for 3 years in the box office, and I had a little involvement prior to that because we were both members of the Kingston Symphony, played here, and also I helped sometimes Steve Smith, who had an office in the Grand at that
Steve
time.
Smith names, okay.
Yeah, and so Steve had his office here, so I was here occasionally helping Steve out.
I started to manage the Grand in late '78, and I managed it for 19 years. Before that, I'd had experience here as an actor and a director and a producer, and I just loved the space. So when I got the job, it was really thrilling.
At that time, the Grand was struggling. The boilers never worked, and there was nobody to really be ushers and that sort of thing. So there was a huge volunteer component at that time.
And those days were very different than now. There was no culture department in Kingston, for instance. So I was really left on my own, which I enjoyed. I had no one to answer to, really, except council, and I only saw them once a year. The underlying aim for me was to make the Grand accessible to everybody in the community, because everybody pays taxes and everybody supports it. So I wanted everybody to be able to use it.
What we accomplished was premiering an opera in Kingston, right here at the Grand Theatre. I remember talking with David Helwig. Did you ever think about writing an opera libretto? No. Oh, no. Never. No interest. I saw him a few days later, and he looked at this book about the Bernardo children, and he was saying, maybe I would like a crack at this.
I produced a Maid in Kingston opera, Bernardo Boy, which was a thrill. And I produced The Nutcracker, which went on for 7 years, and it was a combination of Kingston School of Dance and the Quinty School of Dance and people from the National Ballet who were guests. It was so exciting for me, because I wasn't all that young, and to have all this youthful energy around. It was great.
In 1985, I, along with a guy named Eric Caskins, started the Baby Grand Theatre. Nancy Helwig was in the box office. Actually, she was literally standing in the box office, and she was talking about the renovations that were happening.
It was the third renovation that we went through. It had been part of the lounge that was created in the early renovation.
And I was telling her, Eric and I were both telling her that we really wanted to start this new theater. She said, well, listen, right through this door, and she opened a door in the box office into this like dark, dingy room.
We built it at first really as a rehearsal space because we thought people who were going to perform on the main stage could have a room the same size as the stage to rehearse.
She was like, this storage closet, it's bigger than a storage closet. You could be yours. Like you could turn this into a theater. And it was just crazy enough that Eric and I were like, we have to do this.
One of the things that was so exciting about it is the number of young people who formed into groups to perform things. And they were always edgy and new and very experimental.
I think it's small enough to be a laboratory. So it's a place where ideas in theater could actually coexist. It's always important that people be entertained, but it's very important that artists get a chance to do what they do, which is to illuminate the human condition.
Other shows that I produced that I was really, really thrilled with were things like The Crackwalker, which was the only production of Judith Thompson's show that had been done in Kingston, and I don't think it's been done since.
The rumor was that it was too hot to handle, too much personal stuff about people who were still alive, including a lot of members of the biker community. So we went up to the Royal and brought those folks into the process. And on opening night, about 10 minutes to 8, there was a sound like a 747 starting up in the Royal Tavern parking lot, and it was down the street came 27 Harleys, and they pulled up out in front of the theater and came in and saw the show. So it was, and they were touched and moved by it.
I attended the Keith Theatre in Toronto, and Kingston does not have to take a back seat to anybody. It's fantastic, and I think it's great for the city of Kingston.
One of the strongest points of Kingston, I've only lived here for about 3 years, is that for the size of the town, it has pretty good arts.
We have season tickets to Domino Theatre, we come to the Grand, we go to Theatre 5, and it's very important. And plus our little group in Napanee Theatre Guild, and I think the theatre is very, very important to a community.
It makes it funner to see it live on stage.
I think the best or second best theatre production I've ever seen anywhere in the world was actually here at the Grand, directed by Peter Hinton. It was the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Peter had never seen the movie. He didn't know that people were going to get up and dance in the aisles. He did it all in white. Did it with a great designer named Bill Layton and a fabulous acting company.
It was a celebration of sex, and it was just astounding. We filled the house every night. And, we wanted to carry it over, but we couldn't because there was no more time. But it was really fun, really pushing the envelope.
On closing night, we have a standing ovation for 13 curtain calls. And then the theater manager went into the booth and said, we better shut this down. There's going to be a riot.
There were two ladies who came to absolutely everything. And only one of them came to the Rocky Horror Show because her sister was sick. And when, at the end of the show, we dropped blown-up condoms onto the audience, and she was walking out with one of these under her arm, and I thought, oh dear, I wonder if she knows what that is. So I chatted with her and said, how'd she enjoy it? And she loved it, and I say, you're taking that souvenir? And she said, yes, I'm going to give it to my sister, but I'll tell her they're not usually this big. So she got it. I needn't have worried. They were wonderful patrons of the Grand. They're both gone now, but they came to absolutely everything and enjoyed everything. It was fun.
My fondest memories with the organizations themselves was just dealing with the managers of the Modern Fuel Gallery, the Grand Symphony, the Agnes Etherington. We got together sort of to support each other. The city was giving very, very good financial support to the arts. And then, I don't know whether it was because of us or not, but things just crumbled.
There was then, and still is, a big issue with the Arts Council to raise funds, which was one thing that actually irked me very much when I came here, that the Arts Council had support from the local council in the past, but had been cut back and cut back and cut back. And by the time I joined the board, there was nothing left. We did not get anything. And I'm very glad to see that eventually came back again and is happening.
It was just amazing for me when the City Council finally passed the City of Kingston Arts Fund. Now we have something in place that has funded arts organizations, projects and operations across the city. And I think it has made a real difference.
We always call Kingston the arts capital of the world. And it really, for per capita, there was an awful lot, and is an awful lot of stuff happening when you really get down to it.
The Bertha First Night Kingston was when I was an event volunteer, so got to meet people from downtown Kingston BIA and new community members, and spent a number of very cold New Year's Eve nights out on the street.
The Grand was one of the venues for first night, and I would be kind of host for that and performing in that.
You know, I think one of the great things about the Grand Theatre is that it has been such a focus for many people in Kingston for many years, and for me it was really my school in some ways. I was a performer. I had the chance to work on stage here, and it gave me confidence to then pursue a career in the arts.
A lot of young people have gone through this place and gone on to careers in television and film and professional theatre.
Let me just say on a personal note to you, Grand Theatre, the very first time I stepped on your stage, December 6, 1986, one of the most magical moments a professional in any walk of life could ever hope to have. Because I stepped on your stage and I realized, oh, well, this is me. So for that magical moment and all the moments to follow that were just so wonderful, and every production that I ever did there, I just want to say to you, I'm grateful. My favorite theater on the planet. And I think we can all agree that you could not be more appropriately named.
Kingston is become recognized, especially over the last 20 years, as a real cultural center. The theater plays a great role, of course, with various different acts that show up here, musical acts, dance acts, dramatic theatrical events that come to the city. And without this culture, we lose something in the community, and culture is very, very important to the city.
Most examples of live entertainment really help foster a sense of community, that when you go to an entertainment with a large group of people at the Grand Theatre, you have a sense not only that I am enjoying this, but that we are enjoying this. Just reasserting that we, in this age where it's so atomized, you know, we're also separated with the internet and television and so on. We're all, you know, rather than remaining safe in our homes, to go out and then enter the warmth of a place that where the community is welcoming you, I think is extremely important for the health of the community.
I always say Michelangelo was a local artist, and you know, he's doing great things for the tourism industry in Florence, but we need our Michelangelos here, and we can't have them if there's no place for them to work.
I think the Arts Council's always been, even when it's been quieter, on the leading edge, the tipping point of helping activities get established. So the Portrait Prize is now its own entity that's drawing national and international attention. Like, that's so awesome, and that started from volunteers sitting around an Arts Council board.
What's so amazing about being part of the Arts Council is just feeling so plugged in, right? It's like, it's an idea hub. It's where like all these things are radiating out into the community, and you're sort of being involved with the Arts Council means you get to sit in the center and have this kind of wild view from above at like just how much is actually going on in this community.
What I like about where things are going now is we're becoming much more connected, that we're hoping that relationships can further be fostered over the next few years. And though I'm just starting to get my foot in the door with the Arts Council, it's great to meet all these other people who are doing theater or doing other art forms. And I think that that's where our advantage is we've met so many people who do other art forms that I think our own productions and our own products become that much stronger.
I just need to congratulate both the Grand Theatre and the Arts Council for where they're at today. The Arts Council has achieved the kind of importance that we were in our time striving to have it achieved.
There's something really exciting about watching a child come in for the very first time to see one of the amazing productions that Brian McCurdy has brought into the stage, and to watch that transformation, because that's what it is, a true transformation of the spirit in front of you, and that amazement and that awe at the wonder that's on the stage.
Rather than sitting around and watching the TV or doing something, you know, watching a movie that's more commercial, just watching my kids' reaction when they come, you're so close to the performances too. You can see that personal connection with the performers that are on the stage.
The performers, you know, I've had a lot of them comment about how they, you know, feel the vibe coming from the audience, and that's a really, as a performer, that's a really motivating feeling. So I think that from a performance experience point of view, I think that's it's really good for the performers and for the audience.
The most exciting part is dealing with the volunteers that came in as ushers. I had a time period that I was here for over 9 years, in which I was able to watch the volunteer involvement in this theater go from, 30 some odd volunteers to, when I left, over 150. And that was a really exciting piece to watch people come in and be involved with the theater and really actually love the experience that they were exposed to here at the theater.
It's a very important theatre, and it has been for well over 100 years. And I mean, with the renovations they've done now, maybe it'll go for another 100 years. Who knows? I hope so.